The Variety Artist, Episode 1. This one's all about showcasing. By the way, make sure to visit my Facebook page at The Variety Artist, where you can ask me to ask questions of our guests. Get involved. Now, let's start the show. What makes a good 5-minute spot?
They'll book 90 shows.
Right.
Not 10 or 20, but 90 shows.
Welcome to The Variety Artist, providing aspiring artists and entertainers with in-depth discussions from top performers from all over the world. So get ready to book some gigs, make some money, and have some fun with your host, John Abrams.
Our guest today has done everything. Ken has performed his acclaimed children and family programs for over 2,000 libraries, schools, preschools, community events, fairs, and festivals, and for hundreds of thousands of children and their families throughout Southern California. His programs include Wonderful World of Stories and Song, Animal Tales and Musical Scales, and The American Cowboy with Cowboy Ken. He's also the co-founder of Dreamshapers, an arts organization helping hundreds of entertainers book tens of thousands of school and library shows throughout Southern California. Ken runs and is in charge of running 2 library showcases in and around the Los Angeles area, and is the producer and creator of Performers University, a website designed specifically to help entertainers book more and be better. In fact, he's putting together Performers University conference right now with terrific speakers from around the world. Excited to have as my very first guest on this podcast. He sings, he plays guitar, he's an amazing performer, the hardest working entertainer I know. Variety artist, I give you Ken Frawley.
Well, thank you for having me, John. This is great.
You're very welcome. Now, I talked a lot about business. Tell me a little bit about your personal life.
Well, I've been married for 35 years. I got 4 kids. I have 5.5 grandkids. One's on the way.
Wait, half?
Half, still in the oven. It's still working its way out. It's a little boy. We don't know its name yet, but he's due the end of May this year, so that's great. Mm-hmm. I've been in business for myself since 1982, so I haven't worked for anybody since then. And,
me either. It really is the way to go.
And, I don't know how I could work for anybody. And in the early 90s, I decided to get into the entertainment business as a performer, doing children's and family shows.
Well, what made you decide to do that?
Well, I was always the Pied Piper of kids, even when I was growing up. I was the guy that would park my car in the lawn, put out the buckets of water in the ladder, and all the kids in the neighborhood would come over and start washing my car for me. Little Tom Sawyer-ish.
Okay.
All I had to do was listen to their stories. And in college, a friend of mine used to do a lot of inner-city YMCA groups or Boys and Girls Clubs, and he asked me to come and sing. And I used to go and just make up songs and sing with the kids, and I always enjoyed it. I was going to be an elementary school teacher, but then I got into business and saw that I could make a lot more money in business than as the teacher. So as time went on, I stayed in business for 25 or 30 years before I finally decided to shut that down and go back into working with children and getting back into entertainment.
Oh. Before you did the entertainment business, what kind of businesses were they?
I had a wholesale and import, textile, vertical blind, mini blind, distribution, installation company. We did over $2.5 million a year. I had 21 employees.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was also a lot of pressure. I had payroll every week of $30,000. I had receivables of $350,000. It was very stressful. And after a really horrendous IRS audit, I decided that I didn't want all that stress if I was going to get beaten up by the government. So I sold the business to some employees, and I opened up an audio-video production company, and I opened up Storytellers and Troubadours, which would later become Dreamshapers.
Gotcha.
And went kind of just into business for myself with a much smaller group of people. Ultimately, now with YouTube, the DVD business is basically gone.
Right.
But the Dreamshapers has really grown to doing a lot of very good work here in Southern California.
So wait, tell me what exactly is Dreamshapers? What do you actually do with them?
Dreamshapers is a 501c3 nonprofit arts organization. Michael D. McCarty, a storyteller here in Southern California, and I put it together in the early 90s. And our ultimate goal was to provide great quality children's and family entertainment to institutions in Southern California. We were not interested in birthday parties or corporate events. It was going to be schools, libraries, theaters, city events, fairs, festivals, preschools, things like that we were going to market any kind of independent artist who wanted to come with us. And then we realized if we had an arts organization, we had to have our own roster, much like the Music Center or the Center did, in order to help support it.
By the way, the Music Center, for those of you across the country, we have something in Southern California called the
Music Center in LA and the Center in Orange County.
Right. And originally, they were booking a ton of schools and libraries back then and still do, right?
And, they do schools, but mostly residencies now, from what I understand, in the schools, because the school market has changed a little bit. They were a very closed group. In other words, if you weren't on their roster, you weren't getting any of the publicity or any of the money spent on marketing that the Segerson Center in Orange County or the Amundsen Center in LA could spend to promote their artists. So when we created Dreamshapers, we wanted our roster of artists, which would then help support the arts organization. But we also wanted to make our marketing plan available to all independent artists in Southern California who met our qualifications. We didn't want to just open it up to somebody who said, oh yeah, I'm a children's and family performer today and had never done it.
Right.
They had to be able to prove to us that they were quality enough to be in the collection of people that were there. It's the old adage, one mistake is worth, 1,000 great things that you do.
That's right, because we know that librarians talk, principals talk,
right.
And if you have a good reputation and good people,
that's right,
then you will work over and over again. One bad egg, librarians spread the word, right?
That's right. There are only a few things that we kick artists off of our roster for, but they're serious enough that it reflects so badly on the rest of us, they have to go. And the same thing with the showcases and the directories. The artists that participate have to be able to do what they say they're going to do. So when they get to a library, they're able to do a 45-minute show. Or when they apply, they don't have any secret baggage in their past that's going to cause a scandal amongst children's and family performers.
Sure. Well, let's go back to those showcases. What exactly is a showcase?
Well, a showcase, just to give you a bit of a history here in Southern California, I know that I got a grant a few years ago to travel the country and go to some other showcases. Mm-hmm. And they all pretty much, even in the other parts of the country, work like ours. But to go back, Orange County, in my recollection, about 35 years ago with a librarian, then Lynn Eisenhut, started the showcases. And the idea was to put a day where all the librarians could come together and performers could get up and give a 5 or a 6 minute presentation of what they were offering the libraries with programming. It would run all day. Artists, one after another, would get up and showcase their work. And that was a great way for artists to get work. Well, later on, County of Los Angeles started to have their own showcase, and Inland Empire, which is Riverside, San Bernardino, that area in Southern California out into the desert, they started to have their own showcase. Well, that went along fine for 5 or 6 years. And all of us here, and you yourself included,
yes,
know the importance of showcasing.
Yeah, in fact, my first showcase ever was 1999, I think. Library Kids Lead the Way was the theme. In fact, I'll tell you the story of my first showcase ever. And this is why it's important to do these showcases. I had done a show for my local library where I lived. The librarian came to me and said, do you want to do this library showcase? And I was from the acting world. And in the acting world, when you do what's called a showcase, you and maybe 7 or 8 other groups do scenes in front of a casting director. And that casting director may or may not hire you. So I was from the school that showcases don't really matter. You get very little work from them. So this librarian comes to me and says, do you want to do the showcase? Finally, I agree on it. I have 2 minutes at the end of the showcase. Everybody does their 5 minutes, and because I was one of the last people to start it. So I'm sitting through the showcase. Before the showcase, I prepared all sorts of different magical things. And as I'm watching the showcase, throughout the entire showcase, people were doing the things that I had planned.
That happens to all of us.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
And I know I'm last, and I know that all these librarians are going to watch me, and they're going to say, "Oh, well, I've seen that, and I've seen that, and I've seen that."
Every magician has done the floating table before you.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I think six
or seven did the floating table.
Magicians, did the floating table. I went into the bathroom and I splashed some water on my face, and I said to myself, "Gosh, what am I going to do? These are the only things that I have prepared." I went up in front of anybody. You may remember this. I don't know. I went up in front of everybody and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm about to summarize everything you just saw in this showcase." And I did exactly what I planned. I booked 27 or 28 shows in a little 2-minute piece. And that's why showcases are important.
That's right. And artists, there's so many new artists that will book, the first year they go out, will book 30 and sometimes even more. I had one of our new artists book 60 in the first summer that he went out.
60 shows
60
in 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes. But then there's other artists that will get nothing or
That's
get
right.
1 or 2 shows. And you and I both have been seeing and doing this for so long. There are some key things that performers do that hurt themselves on it. Back to the showcase. So Inland Empire and County of Los Angeles, because of budgetary cuts, were going to cancel their showcases. I knew how important showcases were to the performers. And with Dreamshapers' mission being trying to promote artists to the community, ours and others, to get work. Because unless an artist is getting work, how can they continue to do what they're doing? Just to be altruistic and have this great art form going out there, that's all great. But for me, I had to earn a living at being an artist. And I think most artists do.
The more you do it, the better you get at it.
That's right. I knew the people at County of LA and I knew the people at Inland Empire. So I went to them and offered them that Dreamshapers, because of our nonprofit status, we would put together the entire showcase. All they had to do was pick a location, a date, and send all of the librarians to it.
Nice.
And they both agreed to do it. And so for the last 15 or more years, we've been putting on LA County and Inland Empire showcase for sure the last years, those two. The idea for us was then to put together, once they agreed to the showcase, then I had to put together all the aspects of the showcase.
Sure.
And I realized that it was well above and beyond what I could do personally by myself. So what I've always done in life is I collaborate. So I put together a group of core artists, people I thought I invited in that were, very booked, very professional artists in the market, and we began to structure how the showcases would be structured. We went to what Inland Empire had was a split stage. Susan Erickson established that out there, where one half of the stage was performing while the other half of the stage was set up.
And Susan Erickson was
the
one
head
of the head
of County of San Bernardino Libraries Children's Services.
Okay.
She's now retired and gone, but not gone. As she just moved. I hope she's having a great time in St. George, Utah these days. Okay,
she's moved on.
Yes, it's not how I meant it to sound. But anyway, she's a wonderful person. We adopted her style of showcase because the Orange County, which was the original one, would have one artist on stage. So the setup and takedown time adds probably over the course of the day 8 to 10 more artists. And in my view, the more we are in front of the libraries, the better off we are. So with Inland Empire and San Bernardino, being we were artists, we decided that it was important that artists get on every other year on the showcase.
Gotcha.
Because, and if you're on Orange County Showcase, it's 5 years till you're on again.
That's right.
Well, the result in that is a geometric diminishment in our business in Orange County.
That's right, because librarians do change.
30% almost every year, yeah. So being that we're an artist-run organization, we run the showcase as an artist-run showcase. And I know a lot of new artists complain, and there's other artists that will complain about it, but by and large, everybody will say, the big one they always complain about is 5 minutes. I want 7 minutes. 7 minutes. I can really show off better if 7 minutes. I go, okay, if I give everybody 7 minutes, that means probably 8 more artists are not going to get on stage that year, which means instead of guaranteeing you every 2 years, it's going to be every 3 years. Are you okay with getting on the stage every 3 years? And 99.9% of artists go,
yeah, of course.
No, 5 minutes will work for me.
librarians know when they see a showcase, they know within the first 30 seconds whether they're going to hire that person or not.
Yeah, they do, but I think sometimes they're hoodwinked. But I'll get back to the hoodwink thing here in a second. Craig Newton, another performer here in Southern California, he's done countless shows in schools and libraries.
He's a musical artist that plays about every instrument in the world.
I know, he does shows with multiple instruments. He's very personable. The librarians absolutely love him. He does all the things you need to do to be successful in this business, and he is. And I like him personally. So Craig and I, many, many years, were standing in the back watching performers, and there was one performer that was just horrific up on stage. Craig said, 5 minutes isn't long enough for a good performer, but it sure is too long for an awful performer.
That's true.
And I have used that adage forever, that if you're good, it is not long enough, but you can still do it. And if you're awful, it is too long. But back to the hoodwinked. With Inland Empire and County of Los Angeles, if anybody listening to this is in Southern California ever wanted to participate in them, it's open to everybody with qualifications. County of Los Angeles requires an audition, and Inland Empire requires 3 letters of reference or other things that prove that you are a quality children's and family performer. So if you were a member of the Music Center or the Center, you're easily into the showcases,
Sure.
But if you're brand new, it's a little harder to get on those showcases. Orange County, anybody can get onto the showcase, and last year over half of the performers were brand new, and that's what it is every year. LA County, what was I figuring, somewhere around 4% of the performers were new at LA County, and about 10% were new in Inland Empire. It's just much harder, and the idea the County of Los Angeles and Inland Empire they want their librarians to hire quality people.
Sure.
They don't want to futz around with people that are going to cause their librarians problems.
Oh, yeah.
I have heard over and over again in the last 30 years from Orange County and independent librarians about performers they bought at Orange County Showcase that said, this is almost a verbatim quote over and over, man, they did a great 5-minute presentation and they did an awful 45-minute show.
Yeah, I do know.
If they're a good performer, they could do a great 5-minute presentation. But if they have not ever worked with kids, it's not necessarily difficult for us because all the years we've been doing it.
Oh, yeah.
But it is difficult to maintain those attentions. So sometimes those 5-minute showcases really hoodwink.
Oh, yeah.
I remember years ago there was a Snow White performer, and she got up there, and she was very beautiful, and she had a very large chest, and she had a very low-cut top. Craig Newton and I were standing in the back going, wow, how is she going to do this? We bend over a lot for our kids, Sure enough, I went to one of the libraries and followed her and asked the librarian, and she goes, oh my gosh, that was one of the worst shows. All she did was bend over, and the dads loved it, but the moms were incensed about the show.
And it's mostly women. It's mostly moms.
Mostly mom. We took over the showcases years ago in an effort to generate work for not only our performers, but all of the other quality performers around, using my same philosophy, which was, if Dreamshapers surrounds itself with good quality people, we will get our fair share of the work.
Sure.
And we do, every year. In Dreamshapers books, this year we booked over 800 shows.
That's great.
And thinking of all the directories and things, we probably help artists generate well over 5,000 shows a year.
So in addition to the showcase, you also put out a directory with entertainers, pictures and summary and such. So what is that all about?
So Inland Empire had a directory when they were doing the showcase. It was just a paper directory, and I thought it was a great thing to hand out. When we took over the showcases, we started off for the first couple of years with just a black and white paper directory we made for Inland Empire and for LA County. Well, then the group of us, of performers that got together, thought, well, why don't we just upgrade the showcase a little bit? And we started looking into it. It wasn't that much more to create a 4-color directory. One of the people that came to our showcase was Rosemary Habel out of Class Act in Chicago.
Okay.
And she does school assemblies and libraries all up and down the East Coast, all up and down the West Coast. And she had a really great directory, color directory, I fell in love with, that was the perfect size for what we were looking to do. The price was only a few $100s more to do the 4-color over the black and white. So we as a group decided that why don't we upgrade our professional look? If we are going to be professional artists in Southern California, let's look professional. So we upgraded the directory to look professional. And then we did things because Pete Ellison with Show Operations,
which, by the way, you'll hear on this podcast shortly.
Shortly, okay. And One World Rhythm, great guy. He was part of the core group, and he was upset because we had an expo connected to the showcase.
Sure.
And the expo was where the performers would set up tables and the librarians could go around. Most of the time, the performers complain that the librarians try not to interact with them. They try not to look at them. The librarians on their side feel that their performers are like a bunch of scavengers that are all trying to peck at them as they walk by.
You know what's funny is I've been in the middle of these expos. The librarians, they will look at you if they're going to hire you. And they'll look at all the good performers, the performers that they're going to hire, and then the rest they'll ignore.
Yes.
So if there's 50 people in the room and they're hiring 6, they're ignoring 44 people.
That's right. And all the performers are stressed to get their literature into the hands of every librarian that was there. And I used to have to fight, and every now and then I do, because I never wanted the auditorium where they sit or the hallways to be marketing ploys for artists.
Sure.
So I've always had to shoo artists out from putting literature out on the seats or handing them out in the hallways. It's in the expo room. It gives professionalism to the whole event to do that. So anyway, Pete was talking about how the expo room became the Isle of Desperation. You know, it was like this island of desperate artists full of librarians that were all frightened to be on the island. You know, it was like sheep around a pack of wolves, right? So, you know, they would be frightened about this. He suggested that we come up with a hospitality bag. And so now we create a hospitality bag we hand out at LA County, Inland Empire, and we hand it out at the Orange County Showcase also. And in that, every performer that's in the directory can send in literature for free. We pack it into these bags. And it amazes me, John, you probably don't know this, but it amazes me that oftentimes we only get 50% of the artists to send in their literature. And it's free. They get it into the hands of what are these people thinking?
Oh, yeah.
Free! Do you understand? Free! Into the hands of your buyer! Free! You know, it's just, okay, I just have given up worrying about it. You know, that my stuff is in their hands, so I'm probably in a better position to get more work than all of that other 50 that aren't out there. So as we went along, we then had to charge for our showcases.
When you charge for a showcase, it raises the level of the talent in the showcase.
Yes, it does, because all those people that are brand new, that have never done a show before, that don't even have a clue if they can even be successful at it, it cuts them out.
Yes.
Because they won't spend money on their career. Whereas if they've been doing it for a while, they'll spend money.
It's a small amount of money, too, in the whole scheme of things.
You know something? The basic package that we've always had is less than one booking.
Yeah.
Where else can you market to every librarian in Southern California for the price of less than one booking?
So if you book 1, you break even. You book 10, you've multiplied your investment 10 times.
Yeah, and some of the performers, like David Cousin, some of the more booked performers, you know?
We can say David Cousin.
Okay.
He's terrific.
He is. I hate jugglers, but David is great.
He's great.
No, I tease Dave with that all the time. Performers, they get lots of bookings. They've spent well over $1,000 now in the directory because they'll book 90 shows.
Right.
Not 10 or 20, but 90 shows.
Sure.
And it is just a great thing. And now it goes out to the cities. And when we took over the showcase, Dreamshapers couldn't afford to do it. So it was being paid for by the County of LA, by Inland Empire. Their staff was doing it. So when we took it over, how were we going to pay for it?
Sure.
Well, let's co-op it amongst all the artists. And so that's what we have done. To spend $250 or $350 to be in front of, and every 2 years on stage, minimally.
Oh, yeah.
Is a very inexpensive way to market yourself. And the only ones that really have any problems with it are the new artists.
Right, because they don't understand the importance of the investment.
That's right. That's always one of the number one things. Well, why are you charging the showcase? Which you asked in one of the questions was, do you have any gripes about performers? And so I'll go ahead and give you my gripe at this point. So new performers, for years I would call and I would spend some time with them on the phone. And 85% of them would never participate in the showcases. So I began to realize that I was wasting an awful lot of time on a new artist that was not capable of doing what we do in the libraries. So I then spent probably a week, and I created an informational packet that explains everything anyone ever needed to know. Why do we charge for the showcase? How does the showcase work? What does a 5-minute stay, what does this 5 minutes mean? On and on, the same questions. So I did this whole big informational package. So now new artists call me and I'll say, well, have you read my informational package yet on the web? Well, no, I haven't read it. And my answer is, well, give me your email. I'll send you the link. You read it. But I only have a few questions. No, I don't have time for you.
All those answers are on there. I've read it.
You read it. And if you want, then call me after you've read it. But I can't spend the time with you on this. So
I don't blame you, because I've read it, by the way.
Yeah.
And it answers pretty much any question you would have.
I have had very few artists. Usually what they'll call back is they'll ask me about, well, when can I pay? Can I make adjustments on the payment? Or it's something that's not listed in there. And we're pretty flexible. We work with artists because we're not trying to keep anybody out of this marketplace.
Sure.
But we are trying to pre-screen the artists. So everyone in the directory, any librarian is going to get a quality show from those people.
Right.
And it helps everybody in the directory. So for the last 15 years, that's what we've been doing. And we did the hospitality bag. We send all the artists have given us information. Now we give out free gifts to get the librarians to stay.
Wow.
A bingo to go around and meet people.
That's right.
Bingo was designed by us.
What a bingo thing is, Ken's group gives out bingo cards. Each number corresponds with an artist number. Number 1, number 2, number 3, etc. And then the librarians go from booth to booth. The artist signs the card. And what happens if one of the librarians gets bingo?
Then they put it into a basket. And at the end of the day, we have drawings. And we give out tablets. We give out not cheap gifts for these people. We spend a few $100s to put together a nice collection of gifts to encourage them to get bingo, to encourage them to go around that aisle of desperation to meet the artists, and to make the artists feel better that they're getting to meet all of these librarians.
And if the artists are smart, and by the way, variety artists out there, if you're smart, when you're playing this bingo thing, take a second to talk to the people. Don't just give them a pitch.
Yes.
One of the best things to do is just to get to know them. If you haven't met a librarian before, just get to know them a little bit, because eventually that pitch will come, then they'll be more receptive to it.
Well, that brings us to another one of the questions you wanted me to ask me, which was, advice to new artists.
Sure.
One of my number one advice to a new artist is, depending on the time of the year, but if they've missed the directory, my advice is always come to the showcases.
Yeah.
Come and sit and watch your competition. Come and sit and see how this thing works. Come and walk around the expo room and see what people are doing and talking. Network with the artists. You'll find children's and family artists are some of the nicest people I've ever met in any business anywhere.
Yeah.
You can walk up, you can talk to them, and most of them are perfectly willing to give you some advice or insight on what you could and should do if you want to get into this business. It's a great way for you to see where you stand as a new artist in this marketplace. You can learn about pricing. There's so many things you can learn about.
And one of our friends, Billy Bonkers, was telling the story the other day. He went to 2 different showcases before he showcased. And he asked questions, and he saw the performances, and he talked to librarians, and then by the time he actually performed, he was ready to perform. And he booked how many?
30, 40 shows.
30 or 40 shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiply that out.
That's right. And here's the problem for a new artist, and they don't think this thing through. If they showcase at Orange County and they're not ready, it's 5 years before they get on again.
That's right.
5 years. I have performers multiple times coming to me saying, man, do I wish I would have waited a year before I applied to Orange County. Do I wish I would have waited a year.
Because then they'd know better what to do.
That's right, because they bombed their first year, and now it takes 5 years before they ever get another chance again.
Right.
At least with our showcases, it's every other year. And we have that same 2-minute scenario at the end. Almost everyone that stays, I've yet to have a showcase where everyone that stays doesn't get 2 minutes at the end to give a pitch for themselves. Every year people can get on stage if they just stay till the end of the day. And new artists can get on for that.
Here's another little bit of advice that this year, in one of the showcases, somebody didn't show up. So I got a 5-minute spot. I originally wasn't slated for the 5-minute spot, But I did have a few props in the car and a couple of things. My advice to anybody out there, even if you're not showcasing and you are showing up at a showcase, come prepared with something to do just in case, because you never know what can happen.
That's right. Showcases are very fluid. They change pretty rapidly. I sat at Orange County. I do the sound for Orange County, too, and I sat there this year. A magician got up there. He was slated to be on.
Yeah.
And he pulls out dental floss.
Oh.
And he did a trick with dental floss.
Great close-up trick, by the way.
You cannot see what he's doing. I was sitting 20 feet away at the sound table laughing because I couldn't see what he was doing and going, he's just wasted 3 minutes of his showcase.
Tell us what makes a good showcase. What makes a good 5-minute spot?
Well, from all the years of talking to librarians, they've got a couple comments. So I'll give everybody basically the formula. The librarians don't want a lot of talking or exposition or you telling them how wonderful you are or how wonderful your shows are or how much the children love your shows. They don't care about your opinion.
And they may or may not believe you.
That's right. They just don't care. Basically, they do like a little bit of exposition at the beginning, saying, "Hi, my name is John Abrams, and I have animal magic, and I am a magic show with live animals, and here's what I do."
Bam.
Bam. You've got 15, 20 seconds of exposition. Then you pull out your little chinchilla that is just terrible because everybody loves this damn little thing. Forgive me, chinchilla, wherever you are. I like you too.
He's in the other room. I'll put some earplugs on.
You pull out animals. I mean, come on, Jeez.
It's animals and magic. What
animals, that's right. That's right. So then you go in and you do, and I've watched you showcase. You do it. You go in and you say something basically like that, and then bang, you do 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 little things. But generally, I think you're limited to 3 in what you normally do.
Yeah, if you can fit it in.
Yeah, if you can fit 3. But I've seen you fit 3 things in what you do. And as a magician, 3 is a good number.
Yep.
And they've got to be good things. And you do what I always want the Dreamshaper artist to do. You do things, your best things. You do things that are going to get the audience engaged. You do things that the audience are going to call and respond to you. You do things that the audience are on stage performing with you.
Right.
A lot of performers, they get up and just do their thing. The audience isn't involved on or off stage. You might as well just lock the door and walk away. It's just, you're not going to get work. I mean, you might get a show here or there if somebody really liked what you've seen. But if you do a showcase and you don't get, 10 bookings, you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
In your showcase. And then at the very end, you always follow it up with 5 or 10 seconds of, "Hey, I'm John Abrams. You can see me at this table over here and come and book me for the summer." A call to action, just like everything else we do, right?
There you go.
The websites, the variety artists.
We're going to talk about
come and see all of the rest of these things.
Yes. We would talk about that call to action.
That's
Everything
right.
must always have a call to action.
Always have a call to action. So small exposition, great demonstrations, a call to action at the end, and you walk off.
That's it.
And that's the basic formula for doing a good showcase.
That is a great formula.
That's a great formula for a showcase. But there's still a lot of work that new and nearly new artists need to do. It's coming up in a future blog that I have coming out on Performers University's blog.
Okay.
And I'm giving a 6-part series on, if you're going to showcase, these are the things you need to do to prepare yourself for that introduction, the 3 gags, and then the call to action at the end. Because there's so much work a new artist has to do. For example, the girl that got out and did the balloon twisting, and she put a plastic donut on it and had a little, like what Michael Raynor does only he does it with a burger,
yes.
A McDonald's burger.
Michael Raynor is a hilarious juggler in the Los Angeles area. If you haven't heard of him, he's terrific. He's been on television shows. He's been all over the place. He spins an umbrella and puts a hamburger on top of it. The hamburger spins around as the umbrella spins around, riding the umbrella. He does all sorts of crazy comedy and
he's just so enthusiastic. It's massive. And there was a young girl who got up and did the same thing with a plastic little donut thing, and she was kind of like all really cutesy and stuff. It just happened for her bad luck. Michael Raynor showcased about an hour after her. And there was just hands down, it's like the...
Well, this is kind of what we're talking about. Watch the don't
watch the
just
showcases.
Go in and perform.
That's right.
Watch the showcase, because if she would have watched a couple of showcases, she would have seen Michael Raynor do his thing.
Right. That's right.
And be amazing.
And the other thing is organizations like Kidabra or the South Coast Storytelling Guild or the Puppetry Guild in Southern California. New artists or nearly new artists should join virtually every guild association they can. Especially, I joined Children's Music and the Storytelling Guild when I first came into this thing. And those people that had been in that business for a while really helped me come to understand how the business worked, what I needed to do, told me about the showcases, really taught me a lot of things before I actually went out and started to work as a performer in this business.
That's a great suggestion. So if you have a group nearby, Kidabra is something I'm involved with.
They're in Southern California.
Right.
But there's the national...
There's actually an international Kidabra, which is, they do children's entertainers,
right.
is what they are.
Right.
Probably one near you. All you have to do is look it up on the internet.
That's right. New artists that they would just spend some time reading, spend some time looking, spend some time understanding. And the last thing I did when I came into this business, when I decided to get in, I went and watched a lot of shows.
Oh.
I went and saw magicians, puppeteers. I was a children's music artist, but I went and watched how other people performed with children. And I took little bits from a magician and little bits from a puppeteer and little bits from here and audience interaction. And I watched a variety of children's music artists, found a style in an artist that I really liked, and I kind of mimicked that style as opposed to the other ones I saw.
Sure.
Ultimately, I came out, the very first year I came out in the library showcases, I did Orange County Showcase, and I got 48 shows that year.
Wow.
But I was prepared.
Sure.
I didn't just come onto the market not knowing how to relate to the audience, not knowing what I was doing. I came in prepared. I got 48 shows. The following year, I booked over 90 shows.
That's great.
Within the first 2 years. And for me personally, I book probably over the last 20 years, an average of 140 or more shows. Just for me personally.
That's great.
So,
and one of the nice things about that, too, it's not just 140 shows. Even if you don't showcase the following year, most of those, if you do a good job, will repeat.
That's right.
So when you're calculating, what is the cost of the showcase, or what is the cost of the directory, or what is the cost of whatever you're putting out, multiply that out, because you're going to have that same... I have libraries I've been doing for 20 years.
Yes.
So if you multiply that out times 20 years, my initial investment was just the showcase.
If you do a good job in those 48 shows, for me, a new performer, it's not the first year. A lot of performers can get that first year. It's a little harder the second year. For me, it's the third year. If a performer can still maintain and get 50 or more shows the third year, chances are they're going to be around for a while. Because the third year is really the hardest year. You've seen a lot of people saw you the first year, 50. Your second year, you're going to get a lot of new just from, if you did a good job, you're going to get a lot of the librarians talking to each other.
Right, a lot of referrals.
A lot of referrals will come to you the second year. And then the third year, if you haven't done a great job in the first 2 years, you'll see a geometric decline in the business in the third year. Susan Erickson used to say that, the market would take care of itself. And it does. If a performer, there's great performers that have no business sense, that don't follow up on their communication, that don't call and confirm their shows, that don't just do the basic business things, then end up not getting any work, even though they love them as a performer.
Sure.
They fall down on the other side of the business.
Well, I just wrote a blog for Performers University about before you do your show, what to do. Well, tell us about what is this Performers University thing?
I went to a conference here on the West Coast. It was a 3-day conference. It was pretty expensive. I figured if I was to have gone and stayed up there, it was going to cost me $800 to $1,000 to have attended. It was a lot of international and national artists that came in, and they were offering advice on the Southern California market that was ridiculous. They knew nothing about the Southern California market. I've traveled to other places in the country with the showcases, and there's places that library shows are getting $550 for a show.
Goodness.
Ain't gonna happen here.
Not here.
You know, talk to some of the people that have moved from the East Coast to Southern California, and the culture shock in the price range here is shocking.
And I've talked to other people in smaller states across the country, and they get $100 per show.
That's right. And
so
they do.
You need to know your market.
You need to know your market. So anyway, I went to the thing. You know, it was nice, but I thought that Dreamshapers could host a one-day event that would be meaningful to performers in Southern California. Not only meaningful to new artists, but it would be meaningful to the tried professionals, to the working professionals, something that would give them work. Here's another one of my gripes. You know, Performers University, you're going to be giving your workshop on marketing.
Yes.
Last year you told them how many shows your marketing has got
Oh,
a
yeah.
year. It's hundreds of shows a year that the marketing that you do. Tell me, how many artists out there do you think get the number of shows you get? I don't know more than one or two.
Not very many.
So all those tried professionals that are
Yep.
out there that are getting 150, you know, like me, but I'm running Dreamshapers too. So
yeah,
I'm perfect
you have a lot of.
I got a lot of other
your
things.
fingers in a lot of.
That's right.
places.
So 150 for me is maxed out. I don't really want to do more than that. For them not to come and listen to you talk about what you do.
Sure.
What would possess them not to come to talk to one of the most successful artists in Southern California?
Well, thank you, Ken.
Yes, about how you did it.
Yeah.
How do you not expect that? Same thing with Pete Ellison. I use Pete's methodology for my website. One of the pages, how he explained to me to set it up. I set it up, and within 3 months, I was natural selection first page all the time.
Pete Ellison is terrific on the computer. He's also a good entertainer.
He is a good entertainer.
He books, I don't know how many shows he does a year, but he's booked so many shows that he has hired people
to do his shows for him.
to do
Yeah.
shows. He does them, and if he's booked on the same day, he has people that do shows for him.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, he's very successful. He's always first page ranking, and his techniques got me first page ranking.
Nice.
So how many of these tried professionals, or even new professionals that build their website, have any real clue on how to get their natural selection onto the first page?
I saw his talk last year, and I utilized some of the things that he
Yeah.
said, and it's helped my ranking.
Yeah.
I have, if you look up school assemblies in California, I have 5 of the top 10
Yeah.
listings.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're always there.
I
hate you. No, I'm kidding. But you know,
But so Pete's speaking. So it's a
Yeah,
live
so-
event. What's the date of the live event?
April 13th at the Orange Main Library. You can go to Performers University and you can find it. But besides Pete, I've now put together a panel of three great librarians. Susan Muller from the County of Los Angeles. She runs all 80 libraries' children's services.
A good person to know.
Absolutely. Come and meet her and network with her. She's one of the top people. Lucy Salvato, she is the one pretty much who puts together the Orange County Showcase. You know, she's a key player in the Southern California library market for performers.
By the way, real quick, I'll tell a real quick story about Lucy, and then we'll go on
Yeah.
to that. I did Lucy's kid's birthday party probably 15 years ago or 16 years ago. She gave me gift cards after I did the birthday party. I've moved a couple of times, and I've carried those gift cards with me. Earlier this year, I actually spent one of them. So I put a little email and said, "Oh, thanks for the gift card. My daughter and I went to dinner the other night, and we used your gift card." And it was so long ago, she barely remembered, but she did remember.
She did remember.
Yeah, it was
you know,
just funny.
Orange County, LA County, there are different points of view that the performers really need to understand. And this is the first time anywhere ever in Southern California that LA County, Orange County, and with Shannon Lane from the Orange Main Library, and I'm working on someone from the Inland Empire Libraries that has been a key player out there. That's the first time ever that all 3 major showcases will have librarians present, explaining their philosophy, explaining what they want, explaining everything. It's never happened before, may never happen together.
Wow.
Even the professional artist should come to this thing.
Absolutely.
Just for that purpose.
So you have me and Pete. You have the panel.
The panel,
of
and then
what else?
And then I have David Rozowski, who is an ex-performer and artistic director for Second City. I mean, we know all of those comedians that have come out of Second City from Saturday Night Live on. And he's also an international improv. And he has a great improv workshop that will just help every performing artist to maybe see their audience a little differently, to pick up cues from their audience a little differently, some basic techniques that are going to help anyone that comes and sits and watches this thing. There's always something new for people to learn. So Performers University on April 13th is really a great way. Now, with that said, there's only 60 people that can attend it this year. It's starting to get booked. So if anyone listens to this and really wants to attend, sign up. It's $95. You get a lunch. You're going to get discounts off of the future directories. You're going to get to meet the librarians. There's really, for the cost of this thing, there's no one-day event. Anyone here in Southern California can attend for as little money as this and get the experience and the knowledge and the networking that's going to happen at this thing.
And is there a website or something they go to register? Or how does somebody...
Yeah, they just go to performersuniversity.com.
Okay.
And they can read the blogs. You've got blogs that are being posted. I think you have a blog coming up this week.
Yep.
There are other writers that do it, and then I've been putting out blogs too, so there's a lot of informative information.
I think if I remember correctly, does Annie Benanni have one on there?
Not yet. She's working on one, and so is Buster, and it'll get better and grow over, as time goes on, because I do want other artists, like everything I've done, I want it to be a arts community event, so that they can all do that, because ultimately I have other goals in life. I've just created the new YouTube channels called We Play Along and We Play Along Kids.
What is that?
And it's all music, interactive music for kids, where We Play Along is interactive songs and stories. The We Play Along Kids is actually going to have footage of artists in Southern California. Artie Loon is going to host it. He's another artist here in Southern California.
A terrific performer, by the way.
Terrific performer. We are going to demonstrate music and other artists and stories and books and just anything children would be interested in watching on YouTube. So we've got the 2 new YouTube channels. And
We Play Along, is that the name of the channel?
We Play Along is the name of the channel. And if anyone out there wants to add children's music to their show, I started off as a children's music artist. Later on, I added storytelling to it as a result of watching other artists and seeing some things I like. Later on, I added puppets to my show. I've added magic to my show.
Sure.
Now I've got 3-dimensional animation in my show. So, I have built different shows based on things I have added in order to get me more work every year.
Oh, yeah, and that's a very smart strategy, too, by the way. Instead of being just a magician or just a juggler or just a puppeteer or ventriloquist, if you put a variety of different things in your show, it sells better and it's more original.
They can have a magician and they still have me, because my magic is totally wrapped up in a story. It's not like a magic show. They can have puppeteers come, but my puppetry is different. They can have storytellers come, but my storytelling is... They can have children's music come, but my music is different because they're wrapped up in the variety. So even if they have a magician and a juggler and a storyteller and a children's music artist, they can still have Ken Frawley, because I do a little bit like what you said in your 2 minutes. I can sum up everything you've seen all summer long.
That's right. You can do it all.
And I can do it all in my show, Besides doing the variety show, artists need to have multiple shows. I don't bring a new artist onto Dreamshapers if they cannot produce 5 to 10 shows.
Wow. Nice.
If they cannot offer 5 to 10 shows to the market that are distinctly different, not the same show just wrapped up in a different name.
Sure.
Distinctly different shows, then they have a chance of getting on my roster. If they come to me with one show, it's very, very difficult, unless it's so unique that, I've never seen anything like it before.
Librarians are interesting folks, because here's what happens at a library. The audience every year, or at least every other year, is completely different. But the librarians like to see something different every year. So, and the same with schools. If you have more than one show, 2, 3, 4, 5 shows, it makes marketing much easier too, because you can say to the librarian or to the school PTA member, gee, if you enjoyed that show, you're going to love this other show that I have.
Well, look what you did. You came out with your number 1 show, right?
That's right.
It just booked like gangbusters. I'm so jealous. Now everybody's playing catch up with you.
Well,
then what did you do? you had such success with that, you had to create the follow-up show for the number one show.
Thanks.
To have two shows, which is exactly what you're telling artists to do. So everything I've said, everything you're saying comes from our experience and not theoretical. This is what you should do.
No, these are proven techniques that work.
These are proven, and I think they would work anywhere in the United States. Yes. It doesn't matter where anyone is listening to this.
And if you're listening to this and you only have one show, it's totally fine.
It is.
Because everybody starts with one show.
That's right. But as you go along, it helps to add a second and a third and a fourth show. For me, I do expect a little more because I want thematic seasonal shows, Christmas and Halloween and the holiday shows. Those,
by the way, are the easiest to put together because I come from a magic background. So for me, people actually sell Christmas-type magic props, Halloween-type magic props, and you can do the same with Vent and with juggling and that type of thing, just by simply with colors for Halloween or for Christmas.
I have a skit where I have an orangutan that comes out and counts, and normally she counts blocks and bowling pins. But for Halloween, guess what? She counts boxes of candy and pumpkins.
Sure.
And then for Christmas, she wears a Christmas hat and she counts Christmas presents and Christmas trees.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same gag, the same story, just dressed up for the Halloween or for the seasonal show that people are looking for.
Yeah, now one thing two things on that. One thing to be careful for is if you are doing the same show and you just convert it into a Christmas show or a Halloween show, for example, or a St. Patrick's Day show, and you're doing the same show, you cannot sell it to the same person over and over again.
Yeah.
So you have to have completely different shows. You can do that if you're only selling your one show to one person, and for that 1 year.
That gag was telling you about. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
In it. The rest of the Halloween show's totally different it stands alone to itself. So, the rest of the Christmas show stands alone. I just use that one thing because the kids love that particular gag.
Oh, good.
And even if they had it in the summer, they still love it in the fall. It doesn't matter.
And the great thing about having the 3 shows or 4 or 5 or however many you have is that in the same year, instead of somebody hiring you once and you make that one fee, they can hire you 3 completely different times in 1 year, and you make 3 times as much.
Yeah. So you asked me about horror stories and happy stories.
Oh, give me one of your. One of my favorite things to ask is horror stories because I have them. If you've been entertaining for any amount of time, you have a number of horror stories under your belt.
I must tell you,
give us one.
Every time we do showcases, most of the time we go out to dinner. A group of performers go out to dinner. Almost always, that's all we do for the whole dinner is share horror stories and laugh until tears are coming out of our eyes.
It's a fun pastime.
It is a fun pastime, and there are some that are so awful that my horror stories are nothing compared to some other people. But I think one of my horror stories began right at the very beginning of my career, and I've never let it happen again. I had a children's music group called Casey and Company. There were 4 of us, and we were playing at the Moreno Valley 4th of July Festival. It was supposed to end at noon. We were on the back of a flatbed truck in Moreno Valley, which is in the desert. It's 125, feels like 280 degrees in the sun in Moreno Valley in the summertime. So we're on the back of this truck, and they say, no, it's 12. Well, nobody was there. There was people way out in the fringes of this thing because the parade hadn't ended yet. So they wanted us to start. I had a couple characters. One was a spider, and one was a dragon, and so we sent the fellow that was the dragon character out, and he walked around as we were singing, and he gathered up about 25 kids to come and sing songs. We're a children's music group. They have to have kids. We got to interact with the kids for it to work. It just doesn't work.
You need an audience.
How do you do a magic show without any kids to do the magic with? So anyway, we're standing there and we're hot and we're sweaty, but finally we got some kids. And this man comes running up and he says, I've got an announcement to make. And I go, really? Yeah, can I make an announcement? Okay, and I handed him the microphone. This was at the beginning of my career when I was very naive about the world. He takes the microphone and says, hey kids, there's a watermelon eating contest on the other side of the park right now! 25 kids got up and ran across the park until they disappeared to go to the watermelon eating contest.
Perfect.
And I stood there going, That will never happen again. And multiple times people have asked for my microphone, and almost always it's to make an announcement about their event. Nope, I won't give you that. I got my audience here. I'm not giving you any. Not giving this up. Great. Not going to happen. So anyway, that was my.
That's your horror story.
That was the only one I could think. I mean, I got lots more, but that one here, that one was like number one, and I've never forgotten that.
That's
one.
Great. That's great.
And then the happy stories. I mean, it's so amazing in this business. We can remember the top 10 worst shows in our life. But try to remember the top 10 best shows in your life.
Yeah, I have hundreds and hundreds of shows that went perfectly that I don't remember at all.
And the kids were great, and I laughed, and I enjoyed the audience tremendously.
But that one teacher that's on her phone, you have 300 kids in the audience, you have 20 teachers or 20 parents, and that one parent or one teacher that's on the phone with an angry look on her face, that's the one we concentrate on for some reason.
Yeah. It's like, why didn't she like my show? What's going on with her? What's that happening? Or the parents that are sitting off to the side or in the back talking and talking and talking and talking, and you've tried everything.
Yep.
All the techniques that you use to get them to be quiet, and they're still back there talking.
Yep.
And on that list goes. But, as far as the happy, it was really hard for me to think of anything. And I think the thing that I like most, and it's the hardest thing for me to accept, is the gratitude from performers.
Uh-huh.
Because of the showcases and the directories. And, I mean, there are some people that earn a big chunk of their income off of the work that I put together for them to demonstrate what they do. And I get so many artists that'll come up and thank me and tell me how great it is and on and on. I feel very good that they're grateful because that means I've done part of what I wanted to do by generating work for them. But it's the hardest thing for me to accept at the same time. It's like I'm a little embarrassed. I don't know if it makes...
Sure, that does make sense, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just a little embarrassed about it. And to some extent, I am the face of it. And there's really 10 other people that helped me put this thing together. You've sat in on our meetings before.
Oh, yeah.
And there's some great people that give their ideas and their time and their effort to make this thing come off. And the day of the event, I'm really kind of the focal point pushing to get everything to happen the way it's supposed to.
Someone has to.
But all of the great ideas, all of the things that we've put together over the years that improve us as performers have really come from a lot of other people and not just me. But I think the thing that makes me happy is that I have so many performers that are very grateful for the things that I've done for them over the years.
Now, do you have a piece of advice for our working pros out there, the ones that are working all the time, listening to this podcast right now?
I think the biggest mistake working pros make is they get complacent. They don't keep growing. They don't keep expanding. They don't keep... It's like, I've got my 3 or 4 shows and, I make enough money off of those. That's all fine and dandy, but performing is like building a pyramid made out of sand. And it's like a step pyramid, like the Mayan pyramids or the Aztec pyramids. They're big step pyramids. They're made out of sand. So you build one layer out of sand, then you step up to the next, and you step up to the next. And even in our small children's performing business, you build these things up. But if you don't keep building another step, that bottom step is eroding all the time. Those librarians that knew you were retiring, those librarians that knew you were moving on to adult services, those people that knew you in the other areas are just going away.
Sure.
And if you're not always improving yourself, marketing yourself better, today it's the internet. That's why, even the tried people should come and listen to the internet marketing and SEO that you guys are going to do.
Things are changing so quickly right now.
That's right. So I think too many of the people that are there doing a lot of work get themselves too complacent, and they need to see that spending a little bit of money on their career, spending some time looking at new things, spending their time creating something interesting and new. But that's always been my philosophy. It's, the kids are technology now. Why not look at something technological and go join? Join associations. Go to the showcases. Participate in directories. For the tried and true professionals, go to some of the conferences that are cost effective. Don't spend $1,000 if you don't want to. But there's got to be, in Southern California, our conference, whether you came in from other parts of the country or not,
sure,
our conference would give you so many things about business growth and about professional growth and artistic growth in one day that you won't be able to use all the things that you learned. Your talk last year, I implemented a couple of things that you talked about so many things that it was great, the ones I implemented.
But it is overwhelming, I know.
It is overwhelming, and then you put a lot of it into the new blog coming out. You added some of what you said last year into the blog. It's just, there's so much that can be learned this year. Next year, there's going to be so much that can be learned. I mean, we're already putting together the outline for next year's conference. That's going to take a little bit of a change from where we've been at to help other artists in other markets besides, last year we focused on birthday parties with libraries, and this year we've really focused on the libraries because I was able to put together that great panel of librarians.
Yeah. And I'm excited about that.
Next year we're going to move into preschools and schools, much heavier for the conference next year. So the tried working professionals, I don't need to do that. I'm already booking all of these shows. I'm already doing that. Well, you got a sand pyramid that's always going away.
That's right.
And unless you stay on the curve for market, what were we saying earlier before we even started? We wish we would have embraced YouTube and some of the technology 5 years before we did.
One of the things that Artie Loon brought to the showcase, I don't know if it was last year or the previous year.
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, he brought technology into his showcase. It booked 1 million shows for him.
He booked over 100 shows with that thing.
He's a great performer, but by bringing technology, he was the only guy that did it at the time.
That's right.
I imagine people are going to start copying him shortly.
Yeah, I would think so too. But the thing is, like you learned about your number one show.
Oh yeah,
everybody chases you. So it's not the fact that other people aren't going to come out with your show or something like it. It's the fact that now they're all having to chase you already doing it well with backup shows, with growth, with all of these things that nobody really else has.
If you're first to market, everybody knows you as the one that did it.
That's right.
So even if people follow you afterwards, you're still the number one guy.
That's right. They'll call the shows, everybody's show, by your show name.
Right.
It's like Kleenex.
Yeah.
every facial tissue is called Kleenex.
Or Xerox.
Yeah. Everything is that way. So, the bottom line is, for the tried and true performers, the professional performers, is don't be complacent and go out and at least spend a little bit of money to see about and learn new things. So Performers University is a great place for even the professional people to go out and continue to build those steps. Because if they just stay there, it's going to erode and erode and erode, and those other people that are building are going to end up being past you.
That's right.
Because they're doing their marketing better. They're doing their SEO better. They're doing something better in their shows.
And the younger people that have been brought up with YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and that type of thing, they know it just from living it.
Yes.
We people that have been doing it for a while, we have to learn it as something brand new.
That's right.
And it's not quite as easy as being, as growing up in it.
That's right.
So it's a little more difficult.
That's right.
And once again, Performers University is what date?
April 13th. It's a Friday.
Okay.
From 8:30 in the morning till 5 at the Orange Main Library. It's $95. You can sign up at Performers University, and it's limited spacing. Be sure.
So once you get those 60
once
people,
I get 60,
you're going to put it on the website.
That's right. It'll be sold out.
Yeah. It's going to be an amazing day. Anybody who's listening to this, I guarantee you it'll be a fascinating day, and you will not use all of the things that you're going to learn. It will be overwhelming.
That's why it's going to have to become a yearly event that you go to for your professional development.
Well, we're going to end this. Thank you, Ken, for coming in. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing all this wonderful, amazing information. Make sure to check out our show notes, www.thevarietyartist.com. You'll see timestamps for all the great information Ken has given us and references for everything Ken has talked about it. Thanks again for coming in. To all my variety artists out there, go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.
That's all for this episode of The Variety Artist, but your journey continues on our website. Go to thevarietyartist.com for more strategies, insight, and resources, as well as show notes on today's guest to assist you in your career. We'll see you on the next episode of The Variety Artist. But until then, go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.